Hi there, your computer friend Connie here. The list feature in Microsoft Teams is simply amazing. I love it. So I'm going to show you what this list feature can do. And I'm calling it a feature, but really it's the Microsoft List app. I'm going to show you what it looks like, how it works, and then we're going to create one from scratch. And then your homework is to create one too. Okay, so let's get right into it. So right in front of us here, we see training events is the list that I'm showing you as an example already done. And in this list, I have a number of columns, the session name, the session code, what kind of session and dates and so on. So what makes this list so cool is that, first of all, I've got many different views that I can create for the list by just simply clicking the Add View button. So again, we'll demonstrate this after, but let me just show you the ones I made for this particular list. So I have the all items list, first of all, that view, and then I have group by session type. So let's just click on this one and see, it's taking that list for me and grouping it. And so I picked the method I want to use for grouping. So I picked session type, but let's just see what it has under workshop. So then I can just look at, okay, that's what's under workshop. So see how easy it is for me then to read information in my list. And then I have another view that was instantly created by me saying, I want to view by calendar. And so if I click on that, you see I in fact have a calendar, and if I click on a day that an event's happening, it gives me a little bit of, if there was too much on that day for me to see in the monthly view, I'd see all the events listed in the side panel here, which is kind of cool. And then another view that's available to us is something called a board view, similar to, I guess, Planner is what they're taking that from. So if I go to session board, you'll see that I chose to group my boards based on the kind of sessions, and if I kind of move around in here, you'll see that each of the events I have is on a different board. And if you've ever played with the Planner application and the boards there, you know that we can drag stuff around when it's on a board. So I can take this list training that I say is a panel type of event and say, well, no, actually the list training is a seminar. So I can move it into that type, and now it's actually changed that information for me to say it's a seminar. So one more thing I'm going to show you in terms of a view, and then we're going to create all of this from scratch. And that is if I go to a different list that has pictures in it. So I'm going to go to the list called Teaching Pics. And from here, you see I have a list again. So a list is just rows and columns, really, similar to spreadsheet. And but the difference here is this list is highlighting pictures. And so if I want to organize my pictures for social media or for some of my content creation, then this might be a great way for me to do it. And so rather than looking at it in list view, I can change to gallery view. And then I see that the pictures are kind of highlighted a little bit bigger and easier for me to see them. Okay, so if you have pictures, that might be a view that you choose. All right, so let's get into making a list from scratch. I've moved to a different team. I've moved into my Project MC team and into my info session channel. So this channel is all about how I promote my information sessions, and I want to do a list that shows all the upcoming information session dates. So I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and that's how I'm going to create a list. And lists is showing up as one of my apps because I do use it a lot, as you see, but I could type it in there if it wasn't showing. So I'm going to choose it because it's there, and then we'll just save. And then I'm going to create a list. So I'm going to create it from scratch. And there are some templates, but in our example, I'm just going to start with a blank list. It's a good idea for you to name your list in some unique way. I like to put the word list in front just because that makes it consistent in my teams to always see the word list, so I know that I'm going into a list. But then I also like to say something about the description of what the list is about. So it might be, so in this case, it's really the same name as my channel. But this way, if I'm looking at, if I have more than one list for a particular channel, I could actually see the different ones there. So actually, that being said, let's go info session dates is the list. Create it. All right, so now what I need to do is add a couple of columns and then add some views. So we're just going to make this a really quick list so you can see how these views work. So the first thing we get whenever we have a list is a title column, which is a text column. I don't really need a title column, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. I can actually hide it. If you did have a text column of some kind, then you could go to the little drop down there, go to column settings and rename it. You can't delete it, but you can hide it. So I'll wait till I have my other columns in place before I start hiding it. So I'm going to go add a column, and I'm going to choose choice. The first column I'm going to put in there is about what's the topic of the information session. Is it about Microsoft Teams or Microsoft OneNote or Microsoft 365 apps? What's the information session about? So we'll say choice, session topic. In the choice one, we're just going to rename what the choices are there. Okay, once we have them all in there, and you can add more, but I'm going to add this to 3 of them. And then the next column I'm going to put in there really is just a start date and time for these sessions. So again, this is just to keep track of when are my upcoming sessions. And I can put definitely more columns after that, but to give us a calendar view, we need to have a date column. So I'm going to go to columns again and go to date and time, and I'm going to include the time. And that's it. I could have a start time and an end time, so then it has a duration if you need that for your calendar to show how much time you're using. But in this case, just to keep it quick, I'm just going to have the one column for now. And right now, why don't we get rid of this column for the title? So I'm going to hide that one. Okay, these are kind of the only 2 things I need to start with. Yeah, I'm just making the columns a bit wider. So let's add some stuff in here. So I'm going to go to Edit and Grid View, and we'll pick Teams, and then we'll pick the date. I'm going to pick a past date. We did one. Okay, 12 p.m. So we'll just say that. And I had a few Teams sessions. So what I'm going to do, just to save me some typing, is I'm going to highlight these 2 and just drag it with the black plus sign at the bottom, kind of autofill like you do in Excel. Drag it down 1. Let's drag it down a second time because I actually have 3 sessions we're going to put in. And then I'll just go and change the date. The next one is January 31st. And it's still at 12 noon, so that's fine. And then the last one is March 14th. Okay, perfect. You know what? I am gonna add another column because I'm gonna add one that says that I've sent out the email invite. So let's just add one more column right now. And this one's gonna be just like a yes or no column. So, but at the time when I'm doing these, I can of course go in here and say, yeah, oh yeah, I've sent out the email invite. What I could actually do is create some automation that says 3 weeks before, make a task that says send out email invite and stuff like that. So I could build something in so it actually does some work for me based on the fact that I put the date in there already. But let's add in another item here. Actually, I'll just check mark the past ones, so the ones for November, and that way you can see the check marks in place there. Okay, but the OneNote one is going to be at 10 a.m. So I'm just going to change the time here. And there is a little drop down, so I could choose that and check mark it. Okay, let's do another one. So I'm just going to grab those 2 because I don't have to retype it again. And then we'll pick the next date. Okay, April 10th, 10 a.m. Perfect. Okay, so I'm done editing for now. So let's exit the grid view. And now I want us to create some views. So we're going to go to add view. And this one will be a calendar view. So let's go session calendar. And just choose calendar, and then do we want to see it by the month, by the week, or how do you want to see it? So I'm going to say month because I don't have that many, right? And then what's the start date on the calendar? So it's going to be date of session and date. I only have 1 date, so that's why it's picking that for me. Otherwise, if you had multiple dates, it might pick your first one. So you could definitely pick different ones if you had an end date as well. So I'm going to choose create. So it's showing me December. There are no sessions in December. So if I go back up to November, it shows me, looks like I made a mistake. Good, we'll better catch that. So let's see how to fix this. So there's a problem with what it's showing me. I didn't say what the title of my event was. So let's go back here and let's go to edit the current view. So now you know how to edit. Let's click on that. And then title of items on calendar. So it assumed title, but remember that's the one I hid. So if the title of your events are very unique, you could certainly use title, and then you'll have it show up there with some words on it. In my case, I just hid it, so there's nothing in it. So I'm going to click on this arrow, and I need to look for, what was it called? Session name, I think. Yeah, session topic. So session topic is what I want to see when I look at my calendar. So let's go save. All right, so in my session calendar, if I go ahead to January, you see that the Teams event is showing there on January 31st. And if I go to February, it's just showing that Teams one from January. So let's go to March, and there's the one on the 14th. So it's showing up nicely. Let's add another view to see what other option we have. So I'm going to go add view. And this time, why don't we do a board? And then how are we going to organize the board? So I can say, let's organize it by the session topic. So I can see how many of them are, Teams versus OneNote, for instance. Okay, and I have to remember to add a name for my view as well. So we'll call it session board and create that. Apparently I have a session that is unassigned. Let's just edit it. So this one I believe was a OneNote one. So the title we're ignoring. If you remember that that's something I hid, so I'm not going to put anything in there. I want to put OneNote there. And then, so this is a different way of editing, just one at a time. I was editing more in grid view so I could edit one line after another. Let's hit the X. And now we've got nothing unassigned, but we've got 3 sessions and teams and 2 in OneNote. So I'm back at all items, and then to the left of all items, I want you to notice the little icons we have here. So once I click on that filter button, it gives me my filters on the side that really pertain to the columns that I have in my list. Let's say I want to find out which OneNote ones are coming up. I can choose OneNote, and now that's all I'm seeing on my screen is the OneNote. I'm going to turn that filter off, so I'm going to hit X beside the filter button at the top here and close out of there. Okay, right beside the filter one is a group method, so I can click on group, and then it says, well, what do you want to group by? So again, it's giving me my column titles. So I'll say session topic, and then it lets me see my events based on that session topic. Okay, go back to group by and turn that off. And then the last little icon there is a sort one that you're probably familiar with, but I'll click on it anyways. And I can choose to sort on any of the columns that I have existing here. So let's say the date of the session is what I want to sort on. And you see that the sort little arrow is in that column anyways. So aside from having sort here, I could also just sort by clicking on the column, the little arrow beside it, and then A to Z. Okay, so there's lots more you can do with lists, but this gives you hopefully a starter on it and makes you a little bit excited like I am at all the possibilities and the idea that we can instantly have a calendar that matches our list because we have dates in it. So anytime you're trying to think of, I need a group calendar for my team, this is your way to do that very easily. All right, so give that a try. Thanks. Bye-bye.